After he broke my heart, I found love in the last place I expected. The first time Daniel Harper walked back into my life, it was raining. Of course it was raining. New York always seemed to save storms for heartbreak. I was leaving my publishing office in Midtown when I saw him across the street. Same sharp jaw, same expensive coat, same polished confidence, same blue eyes I once thought I'd spend forever looking into. For a moment, time folded, and I hated how my chest still reacted. Not with love, not fully, but memory. Pain has muscle memory. He crossed through traffic, ignoring horns, ignoring rain, ignoring everything, then stopped directly in front of me. His hair was damp, tie loose, breathing slightly uneven, like he had rushed. Then he said my name. Softly, carefully, Emma. I hadn't heard him say it in almost a year. It hurt more than expected. I kept my voice steady. What do you want? He swallowed hard, then said, can we talk? Every smart part of me screamed no. But heartbreak has unfinished corners. So I agreed. That was my first mistake. We sat inside a quiet coffee shop near Bryant Park. The exact one where we used to spend Sunday mornings planning futures that no longer existed. Cruel irony. Rain tapped softly against the glass. Steam rose from untouched coffee. And Daniel looked different. Less polished. Tired. Thinner. His arrogance slightly cracked. Then he said something I never expected. Victoria and I ended the engagement. Silence. I blinked. Didn't react. Didn't care. Or tried not to. He continued, voice lower. Regretful. She wanted power. I wanted success. We confused ambition with love. I almost laughed. Because he had once said I was too ordinary. Now he sat in front of me explaining emotional bankruptcy. Life had sharp humor. Then he looked directly at me. And whispered, I made a mistake. There it was. The sentence heartbreak secretly imagines hearing. The apology. The regret. The return. And somehow, it didn't feel like victory. Only exhaustion. Then he asked, are you seeing someone? My stomach tightened. Ethan. Warm bookstores. Rainy walks. Coffee. Healing. Safety. Hope. I answered honestly. There's someone. Something painful crossed Daniel's face. Then he said quietly, I deserve that. Yes, he did. But then he asked one final thing. And complicated everything. Can I at least try to fix what I broke? I should have left. Instead, I sat there. Confused. Because old love is dangerous. Even when dead. Over the next week, Daniel kept showing up. Flowers sent to my office. Letters. Apologies. Voice messages. Books I once loved. Even our old dog's photo. Memories weaponized as tenderness. He wasn't aggressive. Just persistent. Like a man trying to reclaim something. Or someone. And part of me hated how familiar it felt. Because closure can sometimes look like temptation. Then Ethan noticed. Of course he did. One evening inside Ash and Elm Books, he saw roses on my passenger seat outside the window. Saw hesitation in my face. Saw distraction in my silence. He didn't ask immediately. He simply made tea, waited, then softly said, he's back. Not a question, a truth. I nodded, my chest heavy, and finally told him everything. Daniel's return, the breakup with Victoria, the apologies, the coffee meeting, the confusion, the guilt, the fear, the memories, the stupid part of me wondering if broken love could be rebuilt. Ethan listened, then leaned back against the bookshelf. Hands folded, quiet, then said something that hit deeper than jealousy ever could. Emma, do you miss Daniel? Or do you miss being chosen by the person who once rejected you? Silence, pure silence, because he saw through me instantly. And I hated how right he was. That night, I barely slept. Rain tapped my apartment windows. Traffic hummed below. The city moved. And I sat on my floor surrounded by memory. Old photographs, old letters, old birthday cards, 5 years of love, or what I once called love. Then I found something small. An old sticky note Daniel had once left on our fridge. It read, meeting investors. Don't wait up. Simple, ordinary, yet suddenly I remembered everything. How often I adjusted, waited, shrank, excused, competed with ambition, made myself smaller to fit his future. I wasn't mourning Daniel, I was mourning the version of myself that kept begging to be enough. That realization cracked something open. And finally, I breathed. The next day, Daniel asked to meet one last time. Rooftop restaurant in Manhattan, winter sky pale and sharp. The same city skyline where he once ended us. Full circle, cruel, necessary. He stood when I arrived. Hope in his eyes. A small box in his hand. My pulse tightened. Then he opened it. Inside, my old silver promise ring. The one I returned on the balcony the night he shattered me. His voice trembled. Emma, I was stupid. I chased status and lost the only real thing I had. Come back. Let me do this right. There it was. Everything heartbreak once wanted. An apology. A ring. Regret. Return. And somehow, I felt nothing romantic. Only peace. Then sadness. Because I finally understood. Love shouldn't need humiliation to become honest. I gently closed the box. Placed it back in his hand. And said, you didn't lose me when you chose her. You lost me when you made me believe I was ordinary. His face broke. But I continued. Steady. Clear. Strong. I forgive you, Daniel. But I'm not going backward. Then I walked away. This time, without breaking. Without crying. Without looking back. The girl who once shattered on a Manhattan balcony was gone. That night, I went to Ash and Elm Books. Heart racing. Fear alive. Hope stronger. The shop was nearly closed. Soft jazz. Rain. Golden lights. The orange cat sleeping near the heater. And Ethan behind the counter. Looking up as the bell rang. I stepped inside, breath shaking, and whispered, I didn't run. He smiled slowly, warm, beautiful, then walked toward me, close enough to feel his heartbeat. And for the first time, he touched my hand, gentle, careful, like something precious, then asked softly, do you want coffee or honesty? I laughed through tears, then answered, both. And that was the night I kissed the man who loved me without needing me to become someone else. But love was still about to be tested. Because healing is beautiful, yet terrifying, and Ethan had a secret of his own. After he broke my heart, I found love in the last place I expected. Kissing Ethan felt nothing like kissing Daniel. There were no fireworks, no dramatic skyline, no champagne, no polished luxury, just rain tapping softly against bookstore windows. Warm lamplight, the smell of coffee and old paper. And a kiss so gentle. It felt like being trusted. For the first time in years, love didn't feel loud, it felt safe. And somehow, that terrified me more, because safe things are easier to lose. The weeks that followed became the softest chapter of my life. Ethan and I moved slowly. Intentionally. No rushing, no pretending, no games. Morning coffees before work, late bookstore dinners after closing. Walks through snowy West Village streets. Shared playlists. Used bookstores in Brooklyn. Street musicians near Washington Square. Reading side by side in silence. Tiny things. Honest things. Things Daniel had never made space for. Ethan listened when I spoke. Remembered details. Asked how I felt. Actually cared. And every day, I healed a little more. Then I met his world. And understood why he felt different. Ethan lived in a small restored brownstone apartment above Ash and Elm Books. Simple, warm, messy in human ways. Stacks of novels, a record player, coffee mugs everywhere, a half-written manuscript near the desk. Plants he kept forgetting to water. A framed photo of an older woman smiling beside a lake. His mother. She had died 6 years earlier. Cancer. He rarely spoke about it. But when he did, his voice softened. Pain lived there quietly, not hidden, just respected. He told me grief was why he left university teaching. Why he bought the bookstore. Why he chose slower living. Because life had once taught him how quickly everything could vanish. That honesty made me trust him more. And slowly, I fell in love. Real love, not performance, not status, not desperation. Love built through consistency. And one rainy Sunday night, while we sat on the bookstore floor surrounded by open novels and empty coffee cups, I whispered it. I think I'm falling in love with you. Silence. His hazel eyes lifted. Warm. Vulnerable. Then he smiled. The kind of smile that reached pain and joy at the same time. And answered softly, Emma, I've been trying not to fall harder for months. Then he kissed me. Slow. Certain. And I believed maybe life had finally become kind. That was when everything shifted. 3 days later, I arrived at Ash and Elm after work. Something felt wrong immediately. No jazz. No coffee smell. No cat by the radiator. No Ethan. Only silence. The front door was locked. A handwritten sign hung crookedly, closed until further notice. My stomach dropped. I pounded on the glass. Nothing. Called him. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Again. Silence. Fear rushed through me instantly. Not heartbreak. Panic. At 10:42 p.m., he finally texted. One sentence. Can you come to St. Vincent's Hospital? My entire body went cold. I grabbed my coat and ran. New York looked brutal that night. Ambulances, wet sidewalks, sharp wind, taxi lights streaking through rain. Hospitals always smell like fear. I rushed through sliding doors. Heart pounding, hands shaking. Then I saw him, Ethan, sitting alone in a waiting area. Gray sweater, tired eyes, bandaged hand, exhaustion, and something deeper, guilt. He stood slowly, then said, "I'm sorry." I almost cried. What happened? He swallowed, looked away, then whispered, "My father." That was the first time I heard about Thomas Hayes. A man Ethan almost never mentioned. Former real estate developer. Brilliant, cold, controlling, emotionally distant. They had barely spoken in years. That night, Thomas had suffered a stroke. Critical condition. Hospitalized. Ethan had been called as emergency next of kin. I exhaled, relief mixing with confusion, then asked softly, "Why didn't you tell me?" Silence. His jaw tightened. Then he said words that stopped me cold. "Because there's more." He led me outside, rain falling softly over hospital lights. Cars rushing nearby, the city breathing around us. Then he told me the secret. Years ago, before becoming a professor, before Ash and Elm, before the quiet life, Ethan Hayes had once been one of the youngest rising executives in a massive New York commercial development firm. His father's empire, money, boardrooms, luxury, corporate pressure, political ties, the exact world I had been broken by. He left after his mother died, walked away from inheritance, sold shares, cut ties, bought the bookstore, disappeared from that life. I stared at him, speechless. He had hidden it, not maliciously, but hidden it, and pain rushed through me. Not because he was rich, but because secrecy still hurt. Then came the second blow. His father's legal condition, emergency succession. If Thomas died, a portion of the estate could legally shift back toward Ethan. Hundreds of millions, properties, corporate shares, influence, power. The exact world I feared. The exact world Daniel represented. My chest tightened. Suddenly I wasn't just dating a bookstore owner. I was standing beside another man connected to wealth. Another man who hadn't told me everything. Another man who might return to the life I hated. My old fear woke instantly. Hard, violent, ugly. He looked directly at me. Voice raw, honest. Then said, "Emma, I didn't hide this because I wanted to lie. I hid it because I needed to know someone loved the version of me without money." That hurt, because I understood, completely, but trust after heartbreak is fragile. And cracks still echo. I stepped back, rain soaking my coat, voice trembling, then whispered, "I need time." Pain flashed across his face. Yet he nodded. No anger, no pressure, no manipulation, just heartbreak, quiet, real, and I walked away, again, but this time, running hurt more than staying. And I had no idea. This choice would soon force me to decide between fear and the greatest love of my life.